take up to the quorum is established. It is May 14th, I think, right? Yeah, May 14th. Capital Investment Committee will come to order. Members, we're going to take up Senate File 287, and I've got two authors amendments to it, and it is just the kind of the technical and corrections stuff that we've been talking about for, well, since at least December in the Senate. The thought is, you know, I don't think there's going to be some kind of a breakthrough on bonding between now and Monday, but if there were, at a minimum, we could get this correction stuff taken care of if the House was willing to send us over a corrections bill. So we want to be prepared for that, so we have something on the floor in the event that they do that. So the intent would be to move, once 287 is amended, move it up to the floor. Then the thought is Senate File 637, we would just move that as it is over to finance, just purely as a vehicle. In the event that something happens and need to have some money put into it, we'd be able to do that over in the finance committee. But you know, as you all know, nothing will happen unless the House decides to put something on the floor and send it over to us. So with that, I think I'm going to present the bill. So I'm going to turn the gavel over to Senator Jasinski to chair the meeting. Senator Jasinski, the gavel is yours.
Thank you, Senator Bakk. Senator Bakk, would you like to move your bill, Senate File 287?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move Senate File 287 be recommended to pass.
I also understand you have two amendments, A1 and a A9 amendment. Would you like to present those or discuss those now?
The A1, and that's the one that you all received a couple of days ago, I think on Wednesday. It picked up what we thought were most of the provisions, but for about 5 that the House had passed. And then we came across 2 additional ones after the amendment was posted. So rather than include them and confuse everybody further, the A1 was already posted. I decided we'd move the other provisions in a separate amendment. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd move the A1 amendment.
Senator Bakk moves the A1 amendment. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Senator Bakk.
Well, no, Mr. Chairman, we got some additional revisions in the A9 that we weren't aware of and the House weren't aware of when we picked up much of the House language. It's the A9, so I'd move the A9 amendment.
Senator Bakk moves the A9 amendment. Any questions on the A9? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. The amendment is adopted. Senator Bakk, to your bill.
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is all basically correction stuff, moving some dates for projects, and there's a few provisions we left out that required some more money or that weren't really necessary. A couple of them were department provisions, and I will say I'm a little skeptical to be doing things for cities, specifically for cities, until we figure out, kind of sort out all this federal money. I can just tell you where I live, my county got $54 million and the city of Duluth got $60 million. So before I consider projects for communities like that, I think it would be good for us all to have an idea to what share might the cities participate, because I mean, they've got resources like they've never ever had before. And maybe we can work on something that's more along the line with what we do with more traditional bonding, where cities pay or local governments pay, you know, kind of half the cost of a project. So, but we're not going to have that information right away. So, but I'm pretty interested in that. I mean, clearly at some point here, we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do with Minneapolis and St. Paul and the redevelopment that's happening down there. And I just want everyone to know I'm concerned about that. I'm a carpenter by trade. I like to build things, and there's a lot of work to be done down there. I had a very good meeting yesterday with M.A. Mortensen Construction, who's been doing a lot of work trying to coordinate people in the business sector, the business groups like the downtown council and the local chamber to figure out what's the vision for redevelopment down there. So there's a lot of work going on that I frankly wasn't aware of. And I know Senator Pratt has been working on how could the state participate in helping with that too. And there again, it all kind of figures in with, you know, what's the federal money that's coming to cities, what role does that potentially play? What exactly is their guidance? We don't totally have all of that yet, what the guidance for the state or for local governments is going to be. So we're probably a little out in front of our skis on getting a larger build together with some of these big projects, because there's just so much we don't know about the federal money yet. You know, including the money that's coming to the state. We know we can use a pretty big share of the state money for revenue replacement, which would really help with our budget situation, but we don't know a lot about what we can do with state funds relative to infrastructure. We know that the $179 million of money we received from the federal government, specifically for capital projects, the only real thing it solidly defines in there is it can be used for broadband. And with the rest of the federal money, there are actually only 3 uses that are identified: water and sewer infrastructure and broadband. So we're expecting some more guidance in the coming weeks here, and we'll have a little better idea. But I do think there's a reasonable chance that some of that federal money is going to flow to the bonding committee to invest in infrastructure around the state. I'm hoping in addition to water and sewer, important as that is, but there's, you know, we've got other issues also around the state that could use some help. And I think it makes a lot of sense. I've talked with leadership about why would we sell bonds and incur interest if we have cash. So trying to work on that. We do have, you all remember, we've got $240 million of GO capacity that's parked in the budget forecast. So that actually wouldn't cost us anything to do relative to the bottom line on the budget. So that I think is probably our starting point, the 240 plus the 179 in federal money. And then we'll see what else we can cobble together. I know the leaders have not talked about bonding yet. I talked with Senator Gazelka this morning. They're working on, you know, all of the spending committee's budget targets, but both he and the speaker both personally told me they want to be able to do a bonding bill. So I think we're going to get our day in the sun to try to get something larger than just all this revision stuff done, but it's just a matter of timing yet, I think. So, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have to say about it. We'll see kind of where the House takes us. If the House is willing to do something, they'll send something over. And if they're not, then I guess we, you know, unfortunately, that's the position the Senate is in, with the bonding bill having to be a House file.
Thank you, Senator Bakk. With that, we'll go to member questions. Senator Pappas.
Oh, wait a minute. I forgot my my microphone.
Mr. Chairman and Chairman and Senator Bakk, can you hear me now?
You can.
I picked up a couple of other provisions that I wanted the chair and the committee to consider, and I sent them to Senator Bakk, and I know he did add a few of those in his A9 amendment. I've just been trying to print out it's the A7 amendment. And it's so awkward to do these amendments. I'm getting a funny notice from my computer about my mic, but you can all hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you fine. Are you offering?
Yeah, okay. I'm offering the A7 amendment.
Senator Pappas offers the A7 amendment. Senator Pappas, to your amendment.
And I know this will be sent out to you, but we don't usually share at these meetings. I don't know why, but if the committee was interested, I could share it, or else I could just describe it.
You can just describe it at this point, unless Mr. Rue wants to share it on the screen.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful if we did that with amendments, but I haven't seen us do that. So at any rate, I'll start describing it. And the first section really, I picked up from I believe it was from the governor's bill And that was a correction for veteran cemeteries. I don't know if the chair and the chair of the committee saw this, but there was a request to change the language slightly to include construction and equipping costs for each cemetery, and then making that money available until 2024. I'm seeing that a lot with these provisions, is that probably because of COVID, they weren't often able to complete their projects in time, so they've been asking for an extension. So that's section 1 of the A7. Similar thing with the next section, which is it's called section 10. It's inserted into section 10, and that is for the St. Paul Nature Sanctuary Visitor Center. They were originally granted this money in 2018, and they've not been able to raise their match, and so they need until 2024. So that's the next one. The next section is St. Peter Regional Treatment Center Campus Dietary Building, and this was from, again, the 2018 bill, and they would like to use any leftover money they have for asset preservation. And again, I don't know if the chairman looked at that at all. And a similar thing with Anoka Metro Regional Treatment Center is they wanted to be able to use any leftover money they have for asset preservation. And then the next section that the chair didn't pick up has to do with the Duluth Regional Exchange District Public Infrastructure Project, Senator McEwen's bill. And that is a number of changes with that project. And probably Senator Bakk is more familiar with that than I am, but this language would replace language allowing parking ramp expansion with language allowing replacement of a skywalk to an existing ramp, and add district utility upgrades, and set effective date of day after approval by the city of Duluth, et cetera. So there's some needed changes that they wanted there. And after that, let me see, 3, 4, that was quite a long provision. Then Senator Dibble's provision on skate parks, I think his original bill, he expected a lot less money. So now with the slightly higher appropriation, this was in the 2020 bill, they wanted to be able to not just use it for design, but pre-design, construct, furnish, and equipped. And that was that. And I'm trying to print this off. Where's page 5? Oh, here's page 5. Okay, now I just have page 6. Then the last provision was also picked up from a MnDOT provision, which is railroad grade separation. That was that very large appropriation for railroad grades, and they wanted the language to also include environmental analysis, pre-design, design, and engineering and construction, as identified in their rail grade crossing study. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you want to incorporate these into your bill, or if you'd rather take more time to take a look at them and consider them down the road. Or take them provision by provision.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. Pappas, we have kind of looked at all of these, and let me just say, well, the first one, the new cemetery, that really, I believe we're going to do that cemetery, but this provision really doesn't do much unless there's a new appropriation of about $4.5 million to build the cemetery. So we just decided to, for instance, leave that one until we actually get to the bigger bill that actually appropriates money so that it means something. But I do expect we're going to do that. And I kind of looked at all of them, and I will say the one I'm most familiar with is the Duluth Vision Northland project. And I think what you kind of need to know about that is I've had 2 different conversations with Essentia Health this week, and the language still isn't quite right. That was in the language that was picked up in the House bill very early in the session. They still need some revisions to. So the conversation I had yesterday, they were still working with, trying to run by some proposed changes by the CEO. So that's just not quite ready yet. And, you know, the railroad grade stuff, I really think we got to involve Senator Newman in that. I mean, that's all in his jurisdiction. I'm not saying we wouldn't put it in this bill, but I think we got to make him aware of. So I think, Senator Pappas, I'd appreciate if we could just wait on even voting on the amendment. I don't want to have positions against it, but not against the provisions. But I just think some of them are connected to things that, you know, the St. Peter thing is all going to be connected to a larger bonding proposal down at St. Peter. So I'd rather wait on them. And that's not a no, Senator Pappas. It's just,
I understand. Mr. Chairman, what about some of these that just want to, like especially I think the skate park proposal, that's in line with a number of our other modification requests.
well, I mean, on the skate park, that kind of goes back to what I said about what is the local effort going to be. I mean, this is a whole new area. And I remember when we started doing Mighty Ducks and ice rinks around the state, this is a whole nother area. And before we get into a whole nother precedent of the state building a new recreational venue, I think it would be good for us to know, considering all the money that cities have right now, are they willing to help participate in it or not? And, you know, the $250,000 appropriation is not going to build anything anyway. It's going to take something much larger, which is what Senator Dibble had in his original bill. So it's not as though it's going to build anything. So I think that it should probably, if we're going to do a larger appropriation for skate parks, the allowing construction to be used probably needs to go with some extra money. I don't think it does anything.
Senator Pappas.
As long as we're going through these, then Mr. Chairman, the nature sanctuary on page 2, they wanted to extend this was appropriation from 2018. And probably because of COVID, their fundraising has slowed down slightly, so they need a little more time.
I think I think they're actually asking, the request is actually to add some additional money to it too.
I know.
If we're going to do additional money, we should kind of move the date out. I think when we do that, I don't think moving the date does a lot unless they get an additional appropriation.
Okay, so you want to wait with that one. Okay.
And members,
Okay, well, I'm glad that we've discussed all these at any rate, and I'll withdraw my amendment.
all right. And just for
Thanks, Senator Pappas.
the amendments have been posted, so they are on the website now, and you must have them in an email as well. So Senator Bakk.
I don't have anything further, Mr. Chairman. I just want to be able to have our committee ready in the event that the House decides they want to get all of these revision pieces done, and they send something over and it's got stuff that's not in here, we're going to have to take a look at it, I guess. There's certainly not going to be time for a conference committee. And then we'll see, but I'm not very optimistic. They haven't moved the bill out of Ways and Means yet, I believe. So, I mean, you know, once it comes out of Ways and Means, it still has to be reported to the floor, and that's a day, because you can't take it up the same day it comes to the floor. So it looks like if anything could happen, if the House wanted to make something happen, it would happen on Monday. And I really hope that they want to get these revision things done. You know, Senator Pappas has been around this long enough to know the bonding bills are sometimes they're hard to get, and we don't get them every year. But these things, I sure wouldn't want to delay these projects. I think we're going to be facing an interesting challenge likely when we get to a bill next year. And that is how many of these projects in the 2020 bill have now by then will have been bid out, and how many, because of the construction inflation that we're all reading about, are going to come in over budget. And I expect that next session, we're going to have a whole bunch of people off that 2020 bill coming in saying, gee, we got our bids and, you know, we're $1 million higher, or, you know, whatever, pick a number. So I think we all got to be kind of prepared for that. Construction inflation is going off the charts right now. I'm a carpenter, right? I mean, a year ago, lumber was selling at about $500 for 1,000 board feet, $1,600 right now for 1,000 board feet of lumber. So it's gone up like 3 times, and that's all across. you know, I mean, I follow steel, of course, because of the iron range. I mean, a year ago, hot rolled steel, the best quality steel, was about $450 a ton. It's $1,400 a ton right now. So projects that need wood or steel right now, prices are just escalating, something terrible. So we'll have to just kind of stay in touch with people that as they're bidding projects out and see what more we're gonna have to put in to make the projects we thought we already did happen. Just want to make you aware of that. I think so. As you hear requests on that, don't be surprised.
Thanks, Senator Bakk. We'll go to more member questions. Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. And I know I'm speaking to the choir, but and I think Senator Bakk just made this point, but I'll make it too. In the bonding world, we all know it. Time is money. We've had projects within this bill that and with this amendment that have been worked on for, in some cases, a number of years, and but for very, very technical word changes, somehow they can't get across the line. And my hope, dear House of Representatives in the state of Minnesota, I mean, stand up on these projects, get them done for us. These are local communities that are bipartisan in nature all over the state of Minnesota. These bills are bipartisan, whether it's wastewater or anything else. We need to get these done. We need to get along the way of making these projects, frankly, active projects this summer, and we can do that yet if that House acts. But unless they do, again, we lose precious time, and along with it, we lose precious dollars that are lost to inflation as the costs increase. So just make that point. I think each one of us has to make it as hard as we can to our colleagues within the House.
Thank you, Senator Senjum. Next, Senator Dames.
Well, thank you, John. And I think that Senator Bakk did a very good job of outlining the importance of this. And certainly Senator Senjum reiterated that. But I think it's really unfortunate when we have technical corrections that are holding up these bonding bills and raising the cost for no reason at all. And I think it's really unfortunate that for some reason the DFL House is sitting over there, and I don't know what their issue is, but it's really important that we get these passed and these people can continue or get started on these projects. And like I said, if we were asking to put a bunch of money or a bunch of other changes in it, that's one thing. This is a technical bill, and there's absolutely no excuse why this is being played politically. And this is what's really unfortunate, is you take something like this and then it turns into be a political football, and then you wonder why people, our constituents, are complaining about we can never get anything done in Minnesota. And I think it's really unfortunate that the House is sitting over there and not just getting this moved. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Dames. Next, Senator Pratt.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And you know, I'm maybe a little late to the party here because, you know, a lot of what I was going to say has already been said. We've got to get this. We've got to get these technical fixes going. We invested a lot of money, particularly last session, on some really important projects. And I know Senator Pappas and I have been working on one for Hmong American Partnership to get a workforce development center up and running that meets the needs of the people who are going to be there, getting back and, you know, learning a valuable skill, and yet we're mired in the politics of this thing. These are simple fixes, and I'm just getting frustrated, Mr. Chair, and that we can't seem to be able to move common sense items without adding the more controversial pieces to it. Let's get Minnesotans back to work, and that's how I see this technical fix bill. So, Senator Bakk, I appreciate you bringing this and having a discussion. And I know Senator Pappas and I have worked on a couple of projects that are in this bill, one for Scott County in particular, that will really, you know, just a description change that'll really help the ports of Savage and our agricultural products move worldwide. We got to get this done. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Bakk.
Thank you, Senator Pratt. No other hands up. I just wanted to also echo those comments. Again, I had Highway 14 a few years back. It was the same thing, was a technical glitch. We fortunately got that done pretty quickly, but it was a year later. and lots of frustration by people in the community, everybody involved with that project with a technical correction that needed to be corrected and having to wait that time. So I agree 100%, and prices are only going to go up. So we need to get these things done. And I'm, hope we can get this bill done, and I hope the House will move this bill. It needs to be done. So one other comment, Senator Senjum. You're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to point out one other thing. I've been around this bonding thing for a number of years, but it didn't used to always be this way, in my opinion. Yeah, once in a while we'd run into technical fix glitches, but I'm just going to just suggest that the agencies, in particular MMB, which seems to have most input into some of these after the fact technical glitches. We got to come up with a system where they take a good look at these before we adopt them, and if there's any questions, they have to work with us in terms of fixing this language. We're not experts at this from the standpoint of what their rules are, and they have to step up, I think, a little bit harder. Again, I'm just going to suggest it wasn't always like this. We have more technical fixes now, I think, in our bills than we've ever had before. And maybe we need them, but maybe we need a better system to identify and fix them before they get to the floor.
Thank you, Senator Senjum. I'm seeing no other hands up. Senator Uyghur, you kind of waved your hand. Did you want to speak?
No, it's been covered. It's been covered. Thank you.
All right. With that, comments, Senator Bakk, final comments, and would you like to move your bill?
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And let me just say this, if you look at this revisions bill, it really is a testament to Senator Senjum. This bill's got projects all over the state, from north to south, to east to west, Republican districts, Democratic districts. So Senator Senjum, it really kind of reflects the bill that you and the House put together last year, and it's a very, very good statewide bill. I wish the bill that the House was trying to move had the same kind of character to it, but it doesn't right now. But I think once the Senate gets done with it, it will. So, Mr. Chairman, with that, I would move that Senate File 287 as amended be recommended to pass and sent to the Senate floor.
Thank you. Senator Bakk moves Senate File 287 as amended be passed and recommended to general orders. Members, if you can turn your microphones on and give a thumbs up. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Senator Bakk. Next, Senator Bakk, we have next bill, Senate File 637. Senator Bakk, would you wish to move your bill?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move Senate File 637 be put in front of the committee. So members, this is purely a vehicle. We'll get something over to finance in the event that something comes together. It's really not about the content. It's just about kind of getting a vehicle ready.
Thank you, Senator Bakk. Any questions on Senate File 637? I'm seeing none.
Chairman, I move Senate File 637 be recommended to pass and referred to the Committee on Finance.
Senator Bakk moves Senate File 637 be recommended to pass and re-referred to the Finance Committee. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those
Aye.
opposed say no. Motion carries. Senator Bakk, I'll turn the gavel back over to you.
Well, members, thank you for taking the time this morning. I am going to ask when we get to a special session, and you all remember in special sessions, we have to start all over. I'm going to ask that the bonding committee be one of the committees that be reconstituted in a special session. So we actually have a bonding committee, hoping that, which doesn't normally happen, but that we actually have a committee. So I expect and hope that we'll be getting together to put together a bill during what looks like imminently to be a special session in June. Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Senator, that's all I have, members. Anybody have anything else they want to add before we adjourn? Okay, thanks for your time, everybody. This committee is adjourned.